Welcome back. Here's a quick recap. Commander Milan's voice cut through the noise, sharp and commanding. "Scout, how are the movements of the enemy? Have you seen anything new?" The scout's face turned pale as he stared at the horizon. His voice was barely a whisper. "Commander, this is big. The wave situation." Milan followed the scout's gaze, and what he saw drained the color from his own face. Inquiry melted into alarm. Raon's eyes widened in stunned awe as the monstrous horde came into view. His usual curiosity was silenced by the sheer scale of what loomed ahead. And then, as if perfectly timed, Instructor Limer's words echoed in his mind, words that suddenly made too much sense. If you're new here or just need a refresher, I highly recommend checking out the previous part before diving into this exciting chapter. Now that we're all caught up, a huge thanks to Mr. Chicken for the super thanks. Let's dive into this new chapter. What's the scene like as we pick up where we left off? Milan's voice was firm as he asked one of his subordinates, "What's the scale of the wave?" The Vice Commander Tarian reply was laced with worry. "We have identified 1,000 of them, but given their continuous approach, there are likely tens of thousands." The Tarian's voice trembled slightly as he admitted, "This is also my first time seeing this many before." Raon's eyes widened in horror as he thought to himself, "Those words are correct. I can't even count them with my senses." The sheer scale of the monster wave was numbing, and he became shocked still, his mind reeling from the implications. The words "this is a wave on Haben Castle" echoed in his mind, and he felt like he was staring into the abyss. Suddenly, Commander Milan turned sharply to Raon. "Raon, do you know about waves?" Commander Milan's sudden question caught Raon off guard, and he turned to face the commander with a look of surprise. After a moment's hesitation, Raon's expression turned worried as he replied, "Yes, I know at least a bit about them." His voice was tinged with a mix of apprehension and uncertainty, as if unsure how much he really knew about the monster waves or what the commander was getting at. Raon took a steady breath and began explaining to Commander Milan, "In the process of stopping a wave, there are always countless casualties. The reason there are endless reconnaissances and expedition missions is to prepare for waves and reduce the damage by even a little." As he spoke, memories of his training and past experiences flooded back, and he recalled the countless stories of bravery and sacrifice that had been drilled into him. His words were laced with a sense of grim resignation, as if he knew that the upcoming battle would be a brutal and unforgiving test of their mettle. Destroyed castle walls can be rebuilt, and new castle gates can be made again. However, his expression turned grave as he added, "But dead people do not come back." The weight of his words hung in the air, a poignant reminder of the true cost of their battles against the waves. With a serious expression, Milan ordered Raon, "So please, protect as many soldiers as possible. That is your mission." Raon's face set in determination as he replied with a confident tone, "I understand." His voice was firm and resolute, conveying his commitment to fulfilling his duty and doing everything in his power to safeguard his comrades. As the thunderous roars of the monsters echoed through the area, Raon and Milan gazed out at the battlefield. The air was electric with tension, and Milan's voice was laced with a sense of urgency as he spoke to Raon, "It looks like we no longer have the time to talk." Commander Milan turned to the soldiers, his voice ringing out across the battlefield, "All of you, lift your swords. I understand that everyone is scared of this wave scale." The soldiers stood in silence, their faces set with determination. Milan's gaze shifted towards the battlefield, and as he saw the monsters charging towards the castle, his voice grew urgent. "However, this is a trial anyone who has trained at Haben Castle can overcome." With confidence, he shouted, "Like always, we will endure and conquer." His words echoed across the battlefield, a rallying cry that seemed to steel the soldiers' resolve. As Milan raised his sword high, a fierce glint in his eye, he announced with a grin, "Let's all raise a drink to celebrate after this is over." The soldiers' faces lit up with a mix of determination and anticipation, and a ragged cheer erupted from their ranks. Milan's voice rang out, sharp and commanding, "Shield warriors, spear warriors, to the front of the walls. Archers, take position on the ramparts." The soldiers sprang into action, moving swiftly to their assigned positions. The archers climbed up to the ramparts, their eyes scanning the approaching horde as they readied their bows. With a collective rustle of leather and wood, they knocked arrows and drew back their strings, their fingers tense and ready to release. The air was thick with anticipation as they awaited the command to fire, their sights set on the monsters charging towards them. Milan's sword sliced down through the air, and he bellowed, "Fire!" The monsters, realizing the arrows were flying towards them, let out panicked roars. The archers released their arrows in unison, unleashing a deadly hail of projectiles towards the monster wave. The arrows soared through the air, their steel tips glinting in the light as they hurtled towards their targets. The monster's panic was palpable, and for a moment, it seemed like the tide of battle might shift in favor of the defenders. The arrows rained down, piercing the monsters' bodies with deadly precision. The beast's screams echoed through the area, a cacophony of pain and terror. As the monsters fell, the ground became slick with their blood, and the area began to pile up with lifeless corpses. The smell of blood and death hung heavy in the air, mingling with the acrid scent of sweat and fear. The monsters' cries grew fainter, replaced by the sound of thudding bodies and the labored breathing of the defenders. Despite the carnage, the monsters continued to press forward, their relentless tide, seemingly unending. The scout's voice was laced with panic as he shouted, "Wait, look over there." He paused, his eyes fixed on the approaching figure, before continuing, "An elite orc is running over." The scout's words drew the attention of the defenders, who turned to see the elite orc charging towards the castle wall. The orc's massive frame and gleaming axe seemed to make him almost invulnerable, and he plowed through the hail of arrows without flinching. "Shit, he's targeting the gates," someone shouted, panic etched in their voice. "Block him quickly." The order was barked out, but before anyone could respond, another defender chimed in, "Arrows aren't working." The elite orc continued to charge towards the gates, his axe flashing menacingly as he dodged and weaved between the arrows. The flash of lightning illuminated the darkening sky, striking the elite orc with incredible force. The orc's body stiffened, and it crumpled to the ground, motionless. Milan stood tall on the walls, his sword still crackling with electrical energy. "I will protect these gates," he declared, his voice ringing out across the battlefield. The sudden display of power left the defenders stunned, but one soldier quickly rallied them, shouting, "Everyone, come to your senses. Commander Milan is with us." The soldier's words snapped the defenders back to attention, and they gazed at Milan with renewed hope and determination. The scout's warning cry echoed across the castle walls, "They're climbing the castle walls. Block them. We can never let them climb over." The orcs, fueled by their ferocity, began to scale the walls with their daggers, showing no signs of fear. Milan's voice rang out, calm and authoritative, "As soon as they reach the top, fire your aura to drop them." As the orcs crested the wall, the defenders sprang into action, charging towards them with a fierce determination. The soldier's cry of pain echoed through the castle walls as he fell. "Whack! An orc got over. Save me!" The orc, having successfully climbed over, charged towards the fallen soldier, its blade raised high. But before it could strike, Raon burst forward, his movements swift and deadly. With a precise strike, he finished off the orc. Raon's expression was etched with concern as he asked the soldier, "Are you hurt anywhere?" The soldier, still in awe of Raon's strength, shook his head and replied, "No, thanks." His eyes lingered on the massive body of the orc, a testament to Raon's incredible prowess. Raon's gaze swept across the battlefield, his eyes taking in the seemingly endless horde of monsters. He thought to himself, "This truly is hell, even though I feel like I've already killed a few hundred. It doesn't look like I've even made a dent to their numbers." His gaze fell upon the front lines, where wave after wave of monsters continued to surge forward, their numbers showing no signs of dwindling. The scout's voice rang out across the castle walls, "All units, prepare for impact. A boom skull is approaching on the right side of the castle." Raon's expression turned grave. Before Raon could react, a deafening explosion erupted behind him. Boom! The explosion sent Raon flying, and he crashed to the ground, dazed and disoriented. As he struggled to sit up, clutching his head in pain, he thought to himself, "Cook, there's even a suicide bomber monster boom skull. Are soldiers all right?" The blast had caught him off guard, and Raon's concern for his comrade's safety immediately took priority over his own injuries. He winced in pain, his ears ringing from the explosion, and quickly scanned his surroundings to assess the damage and check on the soldiers nearby. The explosion's aftermath was chaotic, with soldiers crashing to the ground, some dying, and others injured. The air was filled with cries of pain and despair. One soldier clutched his leg, shouting, "Kuuk, my leg." Another screamed, "My arm, where did my arm go?" Raon's eyes widened in horror as he took in the carnage. He thought to himself, did they get caught in the explosion and fall off the wall? As he stood up, he shouted to his injured comrades, "Please wait there, I'll..." But before he could finish, an aura message from Commander Milan interrupted him. "Don't go, Raon." The sudden message made Raon pause, and he thought to himself, is this an aura message? Raon's expression changed as he recognized Commander Milan's voice. Milan's voice echoed in his mind, "Protect the walls that haven't fallen. If you focus on the small things, The big things will crumble. You have to endure it. Raon's thoughts repeated themselves, his mind weighing the importance of defending the walls against the desperation of his injured comrades. That's the correct decision to make. If we give up the walls to focus on the injured, the defense we've centered on this place will eventually collapse. Yet, as he gazed at the fallen soldiers, their anguished cries piercing the air, Raon's resolve faltered, his eyes lingered on the injured, his expression a mix of determination and compassion, as he struggled to reconcile his duty with his humanity. Raon's face was etched with sadness as he gazed at the soldiers, his thoughts inward and conflicted. He struggled to make a decision, his emotions warring with his duty. But then, he gripped his sword tightly, and a resolute look crossed his face. I'm not a commander, he thought to himself, acknowledging the limits of his role and the decisions that lay beyond his authority. With a surge of determination, Raon leapt off the walls, plunging into the midst of the monster wave below. His thoughts were clear. My mission is to prevent the soldiers of Haben Castle from dying. Without hesitation, he charged forward, his sword flashing in the sunlight, driven by his desire to protect his injured comrades. Raon's actions were a testament to his bravery and selflessness, as he put himself in harm's way to safeguard the lives of others. As Raon stood before the monster horde, Wrath's voice erupted from his body. You're insane. Did you even think before jumping down? Do you think you can hold out while protecting the soldiers down here? Raon's response was laced with determination. It'll be hard, but I'll have to push my senses to the limit and try. Just as Wrath was about to retort, a snarling orc charged towards Raon. Wrath's voice was laced with venom and disdain. You idiot, to think you'd make such an emotional decision. The only thing in front of you is a dog's death now. The words were meant to cut deep, and Raon's gaze didn't waver, his determination to protect the soldiers unwavering despite Wrath's harsh words. With blade of requiem in hand, Raon's thoughts turned inward, an emotional decision. That's true, even though the right thing to do in this situation is to run away. In this life, I swore to myself that I'd live not as an assassin but as a swordsman. His eyes burned with determination as he steeled himself for the battle ahead. With unwavering confidence, Raon declared, before I fall, not a single one will get past me. I will definitely endure and survive. His voice echoed through the battlefield, a declaration of his unyielding resolve. Without hesitation, he charged forward, his sword flashing in the light as he plunged into the heart of the monster horde. The battlefield was a blur of chaos and carnage as Raon slashed down orc after orc, his sword slicing through the enemy ranks with deadly precision. Amidst the mayhem, he thought to himself, this hell. The battle raged on, with Raon slashing, and slashing again, his movements a blur of steel and fury. He showed no signs of fatigue, his sword arm relentless as he cut down monster after monster. The air was thick with the stench of blood and sweat, and Raon's dress and body were drenched in the crimson fluid, a testament to the unending carnage. Raon's hands were a mess, his skin torn and shredded, covered in his own blood as well as that of the monsters he had slaughtered. Despite the excruciating pain, he refused to stop, pouring every last drop of his aura into his sword strikes. The only sensation Raon's hands seemed to register was the familiar feel of his sword slicing through flesh and bone, a morbid rhythm that drove him forward. With each strike, he dashed forward, pushing through the monster wave with a singular focus. The battlefield had become a surreal landscape, with the crimson hue of monster blood dominating Raon's vision. As he charged forward, a mountain of dead monsters piled up behind him, a grim testament to his unrelenting ferocity. The sheer number of creatures he had slaughtered was staggering, and yet Raon showed no signs of slowing down. Raon's roar of rage echoed across the battlefield as he charged forward. Without pause or hesitation, he cut down group after group of monsters, his movements a blur of steel and fury. Fear seemed a distant concept, as if Raon had transcended the bounds of mortal concern, driven solely by his unyielding fury and determination. As the night wore on, the moon rose high in the blood-soaked sky, casting an eerie glow over the battlefield, but even as it reached its zenith, the moon began its slow descent, waning in the darkness. As the first light of dawn crept over the horizon, Raon stood wearily in front of the walls, his sword still clutched in his hand. The battle-scarred landscape around him was a testament to the ferocity of the fight, with the bodies of monsters strewn about in every direction. The aftermath of the battle was a grim reminder of the carnage that had unfolded. Raon's gaze swept across the battlefield, and he saw that the monsters had been vanquished, but at what cost? The ground was littered with the bodies of the fallen, and the air was heavy with the stench of death. Raon's expression was somber, his eyes filled with a mix of sadness and exhaustion as he took in the devastation. Friends, this chapter comes to an end. To everyone watching, thank you for joining us on this adventure. If you're excited to see what happens next, let me know in the comments, ask for more chapters, and I'll keep them coming. If you'd like to support the channel and be part of our family, consider joining as a member. Don't forget to like and subscribe to help grow this community. Until next time, stay tuned.